And
Lindsay.
and Lindsay. Yeah, we are here. Now, you said that you might have to leave after a shorter amount of time today. Is that right?
Yes. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and set a timer for myself if I can. That way it's summertime, and one might assume that summertime means less, but no, it has meant way more for us this year. And past Lindsay is really good at loading up future Lindsay's schedule without really considering future Lindsay's capacity to actually get all of those things done. So right now, we're blaming past Lindsay for all of the scheduling, just sort of like impact.
Yes.
Not really sure how else to navigate it. Oh dear, we have volume. Okay, we're good now.
Okay. Before we move into anything else, I wanted to get in here the Perfect Keto 4th of July sale.
Yes.
It is currently going on. I have all the details pulled up so I can give you all the info. It is up to 30% off. So it's one of their like medium sales.
Agreed.
It's not like there's like two like biggest sales of the year. So this is not the biggest, but it is pretty good. So, it's a good time to stock up if you've been, running out of things. So if you do one item, you can get 15% off, 2 items, 20% off, 3 items, 25% off, and 4+ items, 30% off. And you don't need a coupon code. You just follow the link. I have it down in my description, and add stuff to your cart. And the more you add, up to 4+, you get that 30% off. What are your favorite still? Like, we talk about Perfect Keto stuff often, and we have like our top faves. Is that still where you're at? Like the strawberry MCT?
Yep. Hands down. Strawberry MCT oil powder and strawberry collagen, actually. Like the 2 strawberry powders are in my number 1 slot. And, I feel like we've been going through Nola bars a lot lately, just because like they're a reasonable treat and snack to take on the road, and the girls all really like them. Therefore, we definitely use those a ton.
Yeah. So the Nola bars, I feel like they're called Nola bars because they're supposed to be like granola bars.
Right.
I think they're more like candy bars, honestly. The coconut chocolate chip is probably the closest to a granola bar in my mind, but like the peanut butter, the white chocolate macadamia nut, even the pecan, maple pecan, they're all like candy bars.
Absolutely.
Legitimately. So for me, like they're just exactly. They're like a dessert. They're not like a meal replacement or like a protein bar, not at all. They're like a treat, and they're really good. Yeah. So you mentioned the collagen. I was just going to mention real quick. There's lots of different brands of collagen out there, and there's lots of good ones. And one thing that makes the Perfect Keto one unique is that it actually also has MCT oil powder in it, which I did not realize for the longest time until I like turned around the container. But so they call it keto collagen, and I think they call it keto collagen because they add that MCT to it. So it's a great way to get both of those,
in one.
Wait, 2 birds with 1 stone, bang for your buck. I don't know, whatever. Bang the birds with a stone. I don't know. Anyways.
We don't question the phraseology too deeply. We just roll with it.
Please don't kill any birds unless they're for your consumption. But anyways, that's a different subject. So that one has the MCT and the collagen, which kind of makes it unique. And then also the flavor makes it delicious.
Their strawberry is always like, it is hands down my favorite of all the strawberry flavors that I have tasted to date. And I've tasted a lot of strawberry.
Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, strawberry is like one of the
it's a staple
flavorings out there. Levi has started asking he's like, can I have some of that pink stuff? Can I have some of that pink stuff? And he's talking about seltzer water mixed with the strawberry MCT, because I made it the other day. I had it on one of my videos, and he like grabbed it and wanted to just guzzle the whole thing. So now he's like, can I just have some of that pink stuff just for me? Can I have some? Anyway, makes me feel good. He's getting some good, MCTs for his brain and all that. So
Filling
anyways,
that little man brain.
yes, perfect keto sale going on now. Link down in the description. And there you go. That's my plug for the morning. Now what should we talk about?
So, okay. I know in the past we have mentioned the Hubes, aka Andrew Huberman from the Andrew Huberman Labs or Huberman Labs podcast. I can't remember. It's too many words. Yeah. One of the things that he discussed in a morning routine ideal situation was abstaining from caffeine until 60 to 90 minutes after waking up. And I have to tell you that this man is full of hot garbage. I thought to myself, I said, self, last night as I was going to bed, self, you failed to put together the coffee maker because of something else you were actively choosing to do instead. So self, it's a great time to try jumping into the bandwagon of decaf before caffeinated coffee and limiting the window of caffeinated coffee. Like, let's just give it a try, self. Self said back to self, like, oh, past Lindsay with all of her brilliant plans was just like, yes, let's do that. We're marking that down. Yes. So I get up this morning. Okay. Last night, the reason I didn't get the coffee pot set up was because I decided that I was going to reorganize the pantry. Like I was going to gut everything out, clean it, and reassess what we had and put it back in a more logical fashion. And I thought to myself, also past Lindsay, oh, I'm going to do a video on this. No. All of a sudden, I just was struck with just like complete overwhelming need to get that done last night. So the coffee pot was regaled to an afterthought. So I completed the task of reorganizing the pantry without filming it, which gives me a little bit of sadness, but we're going to move on with our life. And I woke up, brewed a cup of decaf coffee. This is not decaf, by the way. And I sat down and I did my normal morning routine. And then I was like, I just feel so just like lethargic and just like groggy. And I was like, it's the weather. It's the weather. It's definitely the weather. It's not my caffeine withdrawal. It's the weather. Because out here, I don't know how well you can tell, but it is kind of gray and a little bit more, a little heavy out there. And I was like, it's the weather. I'm going to go get another cup of decaf. Let's go. Let's go, self. So I went to the coffee maker, made another cup of decaf. The children start to emerge from their bedrooms. And I'm like, why are you up? It is so early yet. Why are you awake yet? And I'm like, oh, it's 7:30. It is not early. So I'm like, why do I just feel so just like bleh? So then around 8 a.m., I finally brewed my first cup of full calf coffee. And I was like, I still just don't feel great. I don't love my life right now. And it's that dadgum Andrew Huberman and his little like, oh, make sure you use your own body's blubbity bloobity. No. And so then we went to swim lessons and I had full calf. That was my full calf coffee. And I put a chocolate element in it. So I did start to feel better after the fact. Like, I think I was just low on electrolytes and caffeine, obviously.
Yeah, your caffeine stores were low. You really got to keep those built up.
They're not going to maintain themselves. I'll tell you that right now.
You don't produce caffeine endogenously, I found. So you do have to take it exogenously. Yeah, so I attempted that as well. I shared that. And I did fine. I did find like somebody mentioned, Jack mentioned it takes time to be okay with the coffee delay. I agree with that. I think you do have to kind of build yourself up to it. So cold turkey. I mean, let's give the Hubes a chance.
No, you failed me.
But I will say I did it for several weeks faithfully, and I noticed no difference in my energy in the afternoon. My bloopity bloop didn't do its thing apparently, and I felt just the same. So I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't care. And so I stopped. Just because you said it, like, this goes back to what we talk about all the time. It has to do with how you feel. Just because he's a brilliant man and he tells me a thing does not mean that it will make me feel better. And I will do it if it makes me feel better. I tried it. It did make me feel better. I enjoy having my coffee when I first get up.
That's right.
That's it. The end.
Yeah. So my brain said to me, well, we're still enjoying the hot coffee in the morning. It's just decaf. And
Right.
I also attempted, after listening to the Hubes, however many months ago, whenever he like shared that podcast, I was like, I think I can do this because I mean, caffeine actually does not seem to wake me up. Like if I have a
Yeah.
cup of coffee at 4 p.m. and it's full caffeinated coffee, I still fall asleep with no problem.
Me
I've
too.
also, and some people would suggest that points directly to adrenal fatigue. Some people would point to other hormonal imbalances being the reason behind it.
Or you just metabolize caffeine faster than other
So
people.
I think that's real for me. When I had all 3 of my C-sections, I metabolized the anesthesia way more quickly than what their, charts show. Whenever I've gone in to have like dental work done, I metabolize that, like the numbing agent they use, way faster than most people. Like that's me, right?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, I really hit those chemicals hard and heavy and move on with my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then there's some people that they have caffeine and it takes like, I don't know, 24, 48 hours for it to really get through their system. And man, if that's you, you would probably know because you wouldn't be able to sleep. So don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Just
Don't do that.
do what
Let's see.
feels proper in your body.
Yeah, exactly. WCB88 said delaying my coffee by 60 minutes in the morning helped reduce my cortisol levels. That's
See,
awesome.
now that is fantastic. I also think that when I get my next glucose monitor, I'm going to attempt for the entire 2-week session to delay my caffeine and really observe, am I like hindering my body's capacity to manage itself by having coffee immediately upon waking? I mean, it's literally a 4-minute delay from the time that I jack in the box out of the bed and like eyes open and have ejected from the bed until
Yes.
I have the first sip of coffee, because I do the preloading
Right.
of the coffee maker. It's a whole rhythm and routine here.
Yes.
So I always have a glucose like dawn phenomenon 2 hours after I wake up, like between 7:50 and 8:10 every day, I have a spike of glucose. So I'm wondering, the next time I do the CGM, if I do delay coffee, I'm if I delay caffeinated coffee, let's use good specific words here. I want to see what happens to that 8 a.m. spike for me. And it doesn't matter. Like I can wake up at 4:45 in the morning and do the same thing. The cortisol or the glucose spike doesn't happen until 7:50 to 8:10 a.m. So it's
There's a circadian rhythm thing, and
for
it's
sure.
real.
For sure. And I just really want to pinpoint, like, does this specific thing produce different results? Or, like you said, if you don't feel any different, what's the point?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Because I mean, there's so many things out there that we could do to improve our health that are legitimate, like getting more sunlight, doing grounding, doing cold plunges, doing, changing our diets in different ways, cutting out dairy, like probiotics. Like there's so many things that we could do. We can't do them all. Like
preach.
we just can't. And so just because it's possibly got some science behind it that it could be positive for you is no longer for me the only reason to incorporate it, if that makes sense. Because I feel like I went through this in my health journey where I got to the point where it's like every time I would hear something like that, I'd be like, I have to do it. If it's good for me, I have to do it. And and then you get to the point where it's like, I can't do another one. Like, I just can't, like getting rid of all your aluminum foil and like getting rid of all the plastic in your life and like never drinking out of a, plastic bottle or like all these things. And I'm just like, I can't do it all. So you have to figure out some other criteria to make your decisions with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said that, and there was a thought that just like burst onto my brain, but as quick as it burst in, it fizzled out.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll
There was
remember.
a period where I went, I don't know how many years not washing my hair, doing the no poo method with the baking soda
Uh-huh.
and the vinegar. And it got to the point where it's like, I don't really notice a huge difference. And my husband complains that I smell like vinegar all the time. So is this
So
really
you
worth
did
it?
notice, you noticed a difference.
I
It
did.
was
He
not
noticed the
something that
difference.
you expected. Unexpected
Exactly.
results. Your
And it's
family
not
doesn't
that
want to be around you.
right. And it's not that that's like a bad thing or I decided it wasn't, there wasn't anything to it. It was just that the benefits were not enough to
Yeah.
keep me doing it. So yeah. Yeah. I feel like we are constantly getting comments from people who are still like at that part about, whatever it is that they're focused in on, like, oh, if this is good for you, then you would be a terrible person if you didn't like put all of your energy into doing that thing. You're like, well, I actually I went through that like 10 years ago
Yeah.
and I already worked through it. So thank you, but there
Right.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I dadgummit, I lost it.
You sounds like you need more caffeine.
Bless. I can't wait today. I think it's just the day. I tell you what, though, even though my brain is not braining very well because of a less than regularly timed caffeine deposit into my system, I have accomplished a whole lot of work around these parts. I mean, I fully reorganized the pantry. I don't know if it's going to stick, but you try the things and figure it out, and
Right.
then you retry the things and you figure it out, and
Yep.
it's a learning process. I've already like cleaned bathrooms, cleaned the floor. The kitchen has no dishes in it right now that are needing to be tended, and I'm like, I already got my chicken marinating for tonight. I'm like, look at me go. I
Good
may not be able
job.
to put together two thoughts, but I can put out some work today.
Hey, it all counts. It all counts. I I got a workout this morning, uh, scraping out the goat. See, I can't do words either. Their little sleeping loft.
Twinning. Always.
Okay, so full disclosure, yesterday, I took the kids out. We were running errands, and we went to Killer Burger, which is
Okay.
delicious. And I got regular, burger without a bun. I also ate French fries because I'm not a purist, and I sometimes, will have a treat with my kids. I'll tell you what, I feel like garbage this morning.
Wait,
Like my face is puffy, like I sound congested and
your
like
brain can't brain.
and my brain stopped braining and I'm like, I need to get back on a sardine fast.
But what if it's not the potato? What if it's the oil they fried the potatoes
I
in?
you know, I definitely think it's both. I definitely think it's both. And I like going through my experiments with the trying to produce more ketones.
Mhm.
Man, my brain is different on ketones. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
And I just wish I didn't have to be so strict with my diet in order to get those ketones
Right.
because I can eat, carnivore and not get that. It's like
Mhm.
the protein. Dang it, the protein. But then I get so much benefit from the protein in other ways that I'm like, I don't want to give that up. And so
Yeah.
it's hard.
It's really difficult to sit there and parse out what season am I in and which of all of these really awesome tools do I need to use in this season? Like, and I know
Exactly.
that's what we talk about so often is just because you have a hammer, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to screw in, like some sort of a bolt with the hammer. That's not how this works.
Yes.
So we can set
Yes.
the hammer aside and we can pick up a wrench or pick up a screw gun and make that happen. And we can
Yes.
still appreciate the value of that hammer because it has significant value. And when it's time to pick that up to go in and hammer in our finishing nails because we don't have an air nailer, then we can use the hammer.
Yes. Love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then this is another thing that I always talk about is that when you join a diet cult or, choose whatever diet religion you're going to choose, it's like you have to throw out the idea that any negative thing could come from that diet choice.
Yeah.
Like we have to explain away any negative that could ever happen
Right.
from, anything. It's like people that are just super gung-ho about fasting, like, oh, it protects your muscle and it does this and it does that. It's like you could fast forever and you'd be fine. This is an extreme example, of course.
And
But
totally ignore your adrenal gland fatiguing.
yes, and or like the binge tendencies that it,
Oh,
stirs up. Like that's me. And I had some comments from people on one of my videos recently about, yeah, that's totally me too. Which that's legitimate. It's like we can look at all of the positive things about a certain meal or a certain diet strategy, but if you do that and then the next day you're binging your brains out on all kinds of terrible stuff, it's like, was that really healthy? It's like we have to look at all of it in context. Like what is it doing to you, the next day?
yeah.
Because you could calculate all the macros just perfectly, or you could, fast just perfectly and make it clean and all that. But if it sends you off the rails, there's probably something to work on
Yeah.
about that strategy. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I also think that we are really quick, like you said, we're very fast at dismissing all of the negatives or explaining them away or ignoring them when we have fully bought into one specific line of reasoning. And then
Yes.
there's the other piece of the puzzle where it's like, well, I need to make sure to give this line of reasoning its due diligence. And I also need to keep in mind all of the different variables that
Yes.
could be affecting it. And then try to discern, is it really this one line of reasoning that's the problem? Is it the variables that are the problem? And so there's a very delicate process into discerning, is it the thing or is it all of these other variables associated with the thing or that are impacting the thing? um, and at some point you have to realize like you're never going to like do any specific method in a vacuum or in a bubble.
Yes. It
So
has to work in your real life.
yeah, so if this one path is not working, even though it could be all these other variables, are you able to even change those other variables? If not, maybe this one path that could be a miracle worker for you isn't actually going to be like it. So you just kind of like say, okay, you know what? Season is not right for this particular thing.
Yeah. And we can still say that that particular thing is good. We don't have to demonize it and say it's terrible. And it's funny,
Right.
we're so quick to point out this kind of thinking in like vegans or vegetarians, where it's, we watch them look
Gaunt.
drawn and, and they're like, but this is so healthy, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's so obvious. But we
Yeah.
do the exact same thing with
All the time.
exact same thing. So there's been so much freedom for me just like trying to distance myself from that kind of thinking.
Sure.
Because it does feel almost like a personal attack when something you've put your hope in turns out to be doing something negative to you. But when you have the perspective going into it, like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to, scientifically observe the positives and the negatives and make decisions. It just takes so much emotion out of it, where it's
Yeah.
like, I don't have to be offended that this made me feel bad.
Yeah.
It's like for fasting, like I wanted fasting to be the thing. Like I was so excited about it. It was while I was nursing Levi, I was doing all this research about intermittent fasting. And I was like, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. And so as soon as I was finished nursing him, I'm like jumping in, and I felt terrible. I felt horrible. And it was just like, I put all of my, time and energy and hope into this being the thing that really changed it for me. And it was like crushing. And then since then, I feel like I've really grown in separating myself and my emotions from those decisions. And it's so much easier.
Yes.
It's just easier on my brain.
Right. Alan just said you got to take those things with a grain of salt, as long as it's Redmond's.
Redmond real salt.
Yeah. And I think that just knowing your season is huge. And speaking of seasons, you're about to embark on a fitness season, a short fitness season. And
40 days.
Kind of talk about that for a minute. Initially, we started off like trying to hold one another accountable to doing exercise, and we have just slowly evolved into evolved or degraded. I'm not sure which one is right, but into just chatting about whatever happens to be on our minds. And you sent me the link for this, but given circumstances and scheduling and whatnot, I'm not able to participate, but I wanted you to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I have been following Jill Coleman for I don't know how many years, and I found her. She's does fitness and various other things, but she's actually Jade Tita's ex-wife. So that's how I kind of first found out about her, because they were still married at the time, and they still do like collaborate on stuff. And part of the deal with this fitness program that I signed up for is I get to participate in some masterclass with Jade Tita. So they're still on good terms and everything. And anyway, so that's how I started following her. And I've just followed her for years. And she's not keto for sure. She's more like moderation. She's kind of like, you should just find what works for you and eat that way every day, kind of. At least that's the impression I got. Like, getting out of the binge and purge type thing, which of course that's a great choice. And like staying away from extremes. Anyways, so that's her on the diet side. But as far as fitness, I mean, she just seems to have a good approach. I don't know. This is the first one I'm doing with her, so we'll see how it goes. But anyways, it's a 40-day. So were you going to say something?
Yeah, repeat her name, because I'm trying to find it on your Instagram where I saw it. But
okay.
And I'm on
her name is Jill Coleman, but her business name is Jill Fit, JILLFIT.
Okay, I'm gonna try to find the link and put it in the.
Oh, okay, cool.
In the chat box.
Yeah, if you find it on Instagram, I think you can find it on Instagram. I don't think it's on her website. She said something of, well, I don't know. She said something about it only being offered to the email list or something. I don't know. I can put it in the description later too. But anyways, it's just a 40-day. The program, the accountability part. So it's like if you already have the fitness program, then it's only like $30. If you don't have the fitness program already, it's $69. So it's a bit pretty affordable. Investment. But it is a bit of investment, which does come in handy when you're trying to be accountable. When you put some money forward, it's like, okay, we're really going to do this.
That's right.
But it's the workout program. Yeah. It's the workout program, and then like a Facebook group where you check in daily and everything. So it starts July 5th. I think tomorrow is the last day that you can join. I already had a couple people say they were going to join me, so that will be fun. I just want to get more consistent with conventional exercise. I don't know what to call it, because I do feel like I live an active lifestyle, which I think is a great foundation. And it's not like I have a 9-to-5 desk job. Let's just say that. Like, I cleaned out the chicken coop and the goat pen this morning. Like, we're doing stuff. But I could do with some more like endurance type things. I'm not one that says any cardio is terrible. I think a little bit of cardio is good. Like a little bit of weight training is great. Like let's just kind of push our bodies into all these different areas. And so cardio is really not something I do normally without, actively trying. So a little bit of that. And then weight training, I think, is just so important as we age. And I just need to figure out how to get it into my life more consistently. So I think this will be like just a fun exercise challenge. The next couple of months for me are going to be pretty low key, like a lot of the kids, different activities. They're taking breaks for the summer. My husband's going to be, they're taking a trip to Mexico. Like there's going to be a lot where it's just a good time. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
It's just a good time. So I decided I'm going to try it. And then, so the workout program is I think it's called 40 to 40. And it's something about like exercising before you turn 40. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cute.
That fits
And
us
then,
perfectly.
well, I was like, oh yeah, that whatever. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 39. I'm turning 40 next year. Like that's me. Like I was just like, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me, but I'll, that's fine. And then I was like, wait a minute, it doesn't apply to me. I don't feel like that. Like I still feel like I'm in my 20s or my 30s. And anyways, so that made me laugh. I was like, wow, okay, maybe this is the right choice.
Right. Well, and whenever you sent me the link, I was in the middle of dealing with a plumbing issue in the basement. And so then I went back and I went back and looked through it and I was like, oh man, I'm going to be 40 this year. This would be perfect. This would be great. Or at least not this year, but like this coming year.
Right. Yeah.
And then I was like, well, dag nabbit, we've got this thing in July and this thing in July and this thing in July. And then August comes and we've got this thing in August. And I'm like,
yeah.
It never ends. But I will say, you may not be opposed to cardio, but I am anti-cardio because ew. It's
I know. Well, I'm not saying I like it. Definitely not saying I like it.
Yeah, I will say though that like so I don't know how many of y'all are like me, but I would venture a guess that at least some, you hop on to some app, whether it's Pinterest or YouTube or now that I'm back on the Instagrams, and you find these different like, oh, this simple workout, 15 minutes a day, do this, but do X number of sets per day. And it's like, that's great. Save. And then all of a sudden it goes off into the ether in a digital folder somewhere.
You never see it again.
And so then whenever you're like, I have 15 minutes, I remember that I pinned a workout that is ideal for this very moment. And then you go back to that folder and you start scrolling and scrolling. And I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, that one's a good one. No, wait, no, that one's a good one. And then all of a sudden, 18 minutes later, you're like, well, I'm already 3 minutes behind. I'm all done. And so I tell you what got a great workout was this little finger right here. Doing that right there. So if you have
your eyeballs going up and down.
Yeah, it's just like an eye lift all the time. So then it's like you've got something like that program where you are not having to make decisions. Like once you decide I'm doing this program, you've decided. It takes all of the pressure off to make any other decisions.
Yep.
You just put on your outfit and you do it. And it doesn't even have to be an outfit.
Yeah.
It's like,
and so I feel like I've gone through the pattern so many times of I don't need to spend money on a workout program. There's so many for free. Like that's silly to spend money.
Right.
And then you don't do it. Like that's right. I mean, that's definitely my weakness. Like I don't think that's a strength. And I should work on that. But then there's just something about just paying somebody to give you accountability.
Well, and I mean,
and that's legitimate.
Yeah. And that speaks to so many different areas of life in general. Yes, all of this information is out there for free. But what doesn't come free is the time that you put into finding all of this and then figuring out how to collate it and then how to execute it. So sometimes your mental capacity and your time is more valuable than those few dollars that you commit to spending on that thing that you may have been able to find for free. That is, that is the only resource you can't get back.
Yeah. And then I 100% will push myself harder if I'm in some kind of a group setting.
There
Like
you go. I won't.
100%. Like if it's a group class or if it's something like, where you're going to be checking in, like I will not give up as soon, like it. And I wish I wasn't like that. I wish I was more like self-motivated, but we got to work with what we got. We got to start somewhere.
Yes.
So anyways, even like getting on here and being accountable to each other, like that only lasted for how long?
But to be fair, I am not an obliger. Like if you've heard of the four tendencies,
Yes.
there's the not abstainer.
Yeah,
There's
I know
like
what you're talking about.
follower. There's the one. It basically depends on how you're motivated. So you're either externally motivated, or you're internally motivated, or you are the questioner, where you have to understand the reasoning behind it, and then you can commit to it. I'm the rebel, where you can't motivate me from the outside and try to hold me accountable, and also
you go the other direction.
I can't hold me accountable either.
Dang it.
So it's like, if I spend the money, that's great. I did it. And so in my brain, that's like, check, we're all done here. I don't have to revisit this again.
Yeah, I think I'm probably a combination of a couple, but definitely externally motivated helps a lot.
So being obligated to like be accountable to somebody else, you don't want to let somebody else down more than you want. Then you don't care about letting your own self down. Whereas like, I don't care who I let down. If I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it.
Right. And there's probably drawbacks to all of those different categories.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and benefits.
And they're the most drawbacks with who I am.
Well, okay. I mean, maybe not.
But it also means that I buck convention all the time. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to do it my way.
Yes.
Okay. I have about 3 minutes left on my timer.
Okay. All right. We have totally ignored the chat today.
Not on purpose. We truly,
not on purpose.
Our hearts are so excited that you are here.
Yes. Thank you for being
asked really great questions.
So Jen asked, when Levi asked you to make him pink drink seltzer with the collagen or the MCT oil powder, I think he would be happy with either one. But I have the MCT oil powder out, so that's what he was having. And he doesn't have any digestive issues with MCT oil powder. And for anyone that's curious, because I've gotten some comments when I put MCT oil powder in my coffee, they're like, if I put that much in, I'd be in the bathroom all day long. And MCT oil powder, and I'm sure people are more sensitive to it than others, but the powder seems to be less of a digestive issue than the oil itself. Also, you put in the powder, it looks like a lot, but like the amount I put in my coffee is about 1.5 teaspoons worth of MCT oil. So it looks like a lot, but it's not. I mean, that's not a ton. But anyways, I'm sure some people are sensitive to it more than others, but Levi has had no issue with having a little bit of MCT oil powder in his drinks.
Plus a full scoop of the flavored MCT oil powder is like very strong. And
it's a lot.
So if you wanted to like cut it in half to start with and see how your stomach managed that, you're still going to get major flavor payoff without the disaster pants situation.
Yes. Michelle says, I've been drinking coffee for 53 years. I started stealing my mom's coffee as a toddler. I've taken mini breaks from caffeine coffee, but caffeine from coffee is zero issue for me. Same. I was going to tell a story yesterday or the day before. I was sitting and drinking iced coffee, which I don't drink that very often. I know. I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't drink it very often. I just kind of felt like it for whatever reason that day. And Levi came over and I'm just sitting there and he just leans over and like takes a big sip of my drink. It was in my Element cup and he's totally used to it being, something he likes. And he was like, and I was like, that serves you right for stealing my drink without asking. So he won't make that mistake again.
some lessons have to be learned. Also,
Yeah.
we had talked about my husband. It turns out that he is joining us from
I
41,000 feet
saw
right now.
that.
I
I
totally
saw
glossed right
that.
over that.
Oh wait, who's flying the plane?
The planes he flies require 2 pilots. It's fine.
Okay. If you're here, who's in the cockpit? Oh dear. Okay, so Peggy, when we were talking about the perfect keto stuff and the Nola bars, she says I can't have anything keto snack, buy a box, eat a box. That is a very important thing to know about yourself. And like no wrong answers here. It's not like everyone should be able to eat them, everyone should not eat them. I think everyone has to know themselves and be
Yeah,
honest with themselves and
absolutely.
make choices accordingly.
That's right.
Yeah, no judgment at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. I
You
have
know.
to run, but I feel like we had a lot of really good conversation.
We did.
I yeah, but I got I gotta get scooting. So I think you were planning to stay on a little bit longer and chat
Yeah,
with
we can
people.
kind of go through the chat and answer any questions and yeah, do your thing.
Awesome. Okay, next week we will be back on my channel.
Yep.
So make sure to go do all of the things that YouTube expects you to do in order to be notified of all the things, because I tried doing telepathic communication with people and I failed. So I got to rely on the human resources that we have. So
Shoot.
there's that. All
All
right.
right.
I will see y'all later. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Let's see. If there's any questions, if you guys have any specific questions for me, definitely put them in the comments. We can just hang out and chat for a little while. There was another question I saw. Bu- 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 Um, Mary says that Lindsay is knocking it out of the park. I completely agree. Natalie Rice, you made it before the end. I'm so glad. Gary says, I can only imagine how Levi would feel if he grabbed some of your sardines during that time. Yeah, that's not something he attempted. We'll just say that. Nobody attempted grabbing any of the sardines. Yeah. Okay, so Risa asks if I made Chris's ranch dressing with this spreadable butter mayo. I have not, but I have made some like lazy ranch dressing, just with like the pork king good ranch seasoning mixed into a 50-50 mix of the butter mayo and sour cream. That was really, really good and just super easy. I have not watched his video on the ranch dressing, so I don't know all of the things he put in there, but I'm sure it's delicious. That butter mayo is so good. I mean, because I am not a mayo person. I am not a fan of just plain mayo. I never put like mayo on sandwiches. It's just not my thing. It has to be like in a dressing for me to enjoy it. Butter mayo, completely different story. It's just fantastic. And like, Chris did not come up with butter mayo itself. Like there's lots of recipes out there for butter mayo, but he did add like a little trick to keep it spreadable. Because when you put it in the fridge, if you just make it regular, it can like harden, solidify. And so his technique of separating the egg yolk and the egg white and then adding the egg white later at the end, that helps it stay spreadable, which is brilliant. And then so when I made it, I've only made it the one time. I need to make it again. But I put in the 2 egg whites. I just, I did 2 egg yolks and then I did the 2 egg whites at the end. Next time I will use just 1 egg white to 2 egg yolks. And I think that I've heard from several people that will keep it from getting too runny. Because what I have is pretty thin as far as mayo goes. It's perfect for like dressings. But for mayo, you want it to be a little thicker. And so you can kind of adjust the egg white amount and figure out what works perfectly with your size eggs and like how thick you like your mayo. So I'm definitely going to do that again. Hopefully I can get that on like a food prep video at some point. Let's see. Natalie's asking, I was wondering about MCT oil powder effects. I think I need to do more since I'm constipated, which rarely happens to me. Okay, yeah, so that can definitely help. If you really want something to help, go for just the straight MCT oil because the powder seems to be more well tolerated. The MCT oil, it will clean you out, no problem. Ask me how I know. Actually, don't ask me how I know. Let's see. Risa says the butter mayo is so good. So good. Definitely recommend making it. It's like, I love how there are so many different things you can do to the same ingredients and get such different results. Like hollandaise sauce, for example, is butter, egg yolks, some, salt and pepper, and some lemon juice. And like it tastes different than butter mayo. It tastes different than like an herb butter. Like you can do so many things with the same ingredients. And sometimes it's just refreshing to have like a new brain. Like you've been working with the same ingredients, you kind of get into a rut with how you use them. And then someone comes along with like a technique that's just different. And it's like it just opens up a whole new world. So I love that. And that's why I think eating keto and even eating carnivore, it can continue to be exciting. And we definitely get into ruts, and so sometimes it takes some work to get out of those ruts, but you can. Like there are always new innovations to make it interesting. And then also I find that I'll be, eating a certain way and in a rut with certain ingredients, and then I, get reminded of something I, made years ago and a technique or whatever that I was in a rut with before that I kind of got out of. And then that comes back and I start doing it again. Like recently I pulled the egg yolk waffles out of the freezer. I had made them in a food prep and then I just totally forgot that they were there. And so they were just sitting there not being eaten. And I hadn't had them for a long time and pulled them out and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I kind of cycle through different things like that where I'll use it every day for a long time and then I kind of forget about it and then it comes back around and I'm like, oh, this is great. So I love that. So Natalie, I don't know that MCT oil really goes rancid very fast. I am not an expert on it. I know coconut oil that MCT oil is derived from doesn't go rancid easily because it is a solid fat. MCT oil, is something they take from coconut oil. So I don't really know. I've never experienced rancid MCT oil. But that'd be something interesting to look into. I'm not sure. And you can always keep it in the fridge because it won't get hard because of it being extracted from the coconut oil. You can keep it in the fridge if you're worried about like the warm temperatures. I don't think that would be a problem. Oh, Jen says mix primal no sugar added ketchup with the butter mayo for a fry sauce. That sounds really good. I really want to get a good like secret sauce. Like all these burger places have secret sauces and they're all pretty similar, with pickles and mustard and ketchup and mayo. It's like some combination of that. I would like to work on some kind of a sauce like that because they're so good. And then now with the butter mayo, it'd be even better. Let's see, anything else that I missed? So Risa says, at my age, I am moderate when it comes to snacks and carbs. I can eat one and not eat the whole thing. I used to be an all in and eat everything, not anymore. I feel like I have made that transition as well. But I do recognize that if I go too far with my diet, like, incorporating a lot of carbs or a lot of treats, that over time it builds and that I can very quickly get back to that bottomless pit state. So it's something that I like try to balance. Like if I keep my diet really clean for me, like what I know, makes me feel my best. I can tolerate, bites of things here and there without it, giving me issues and feeling like I need to eat the whole pan or whatever. But I know that if I push it and if I, have a couple days where I'm eating more of that than normal, that my body could very easily get back to that state of, bottomless pit, never feeling satisfied, all of that. So it's just a good thing to be aware of, and then you adjust accordingly. And so I can use that information to make decisions on how I choose to eat. But I definitely am so different than I used to be, especially back when I was eating more restricted diets and trying to be like on restricted calorie diets for extended periods of time. And I think a big part of that is just survival mechanisms that we have in us. It's like you're deficient in nutrition and you're like in starvation because you're, told that you eat 1200 calories a day, you're going to be skinny, and you feel like that should just be normal, but your body is like fighting back. And so that's when I got all kinds of, anything that would be considered like a binge tendency. It was in response to starving. And I don't think that's actually like a good thing that our bodies have. It's like a way that we're to, helps us stay alive, like if it really was a famine or something. But anyways, yeah, it's I've definitely changed a lot over the years, and I am so happy that I'm not at that place where if I eat one bite, I feel like I have to eat the whole pan, because I have been there before and that is awful. And I'm thankful that I wasn't just that kind of person. I'll say that. Like I wasn't just destined to be that way forever. There were things that I could change about my diet and lifestyle that allow me to not have to live that way. And I recognize that everybody's different, and that for some people it's almost like a alcoholic saying, I'm never going to drink alcohol again. I totally respect that, and that I can see that being a good choice for certain people. But for me, I was just really thankful that there were things that I could change. um Barrett Pastor says, I watched your egg fast and I'm thinking of doing it. I love eggs. Feel like I could swing it. Yeah, I think it's a really good, like, simple diet to kind of reset both your brain and your body. So, what I found when I was doing those fast, and especially the egg fast, because it was, you know, eating as much as you want. There wasn't a limit on calories. I naturally ate not a lot, just because I can't eat a lot of eggs at once. I never have been able to, like, sit down and eat a plate of 6 eggs. So it was a little bit lower calorie for me, but still, like, I felt full the whole time. And I was thinking, I was like, I think that if I just were to create my macros to be, or like duplicate those macros with other foods, I would have the same kind of results. And so I did a couple of days where I kind of attempted that. And I found that I ate way more calories, which is not a bad thing, but I didn't have the same kind of satiation that I had on the egg fast. And I think there's a few reasons for that. Possibly one could be just the specific nutrition in the eggs that, for whatever reason, that satisfied me in a different way. But I also thought just the act of counting macros for me makes me want to eat more. Like I felt like when I'm like calculating it out, trying to get it to match what I was getting on the egg fast, it triggered me to want to eat more. And so there's something about just the rules of the egg fast where it's like one egg, one fat, just do that, don't worry about anything else, that like my brain just was happy with. And so there I think there's something to the egg fast, um, or and even like these mono food diets where it's just kind of like it takes some stress off of your brain. At least it did for me. So I kind of decided I'm not gonna, unless I like figure out some kind of a way, like rules like the egg fast for other foods, like for each ounce of meat, do whatever amount of fat or whatever, where I didn't have to count macros. Like I think the egg fast is the right choice. I don't know if I'm making sense at all, but there's something about not having to count macros that makes my brain happy and makes me not feel like I need to eat more. So there's that. Let's see. In your from Dr. Live Love Laugh, in your egg white bread with butter powder recipe, what is the ingredient that gives it that spongy texture? I want to reduce the sponginess a lot bit. um, so spongy texture. Do you mean like where it bounces back? Like it's hard to know exactly what you mean by spongy, because I like to have big bubbles in the bread. I think that's good because I don't want like the super tight mattress foam type texture. And so there's certain ingredients like the butter powder and any of the fat powders that add bubbles to the bread. And I think that's a positive thing. But then spongy, I would think of as like where you press it and it just pops right back to its original shape. You want it to kind of like mush and kind of melt in your mouth. Um, and it's interesting. I found when I was experimenting with baking soda and baking powder that it gave nice bubbles to the bread, but like I could wash my car with a slice of the bread because it was so spongy and it did not melt. It was like chewing it up felt like chewing up a sponge into a bunch of pieces rather than like a starch that dissolves as you chew it. Um, so fats, any kinds of fats like the egg yolk powder, the whole egg powder, the butter powder, the shredded frozen butter, any of those things are going to take away that chewing up a sponge feeling. And I don't recommend adding baking soda or baking powder to the egg white bread recipes. Chris's recipe, that's very different from the egg white bread recipes, has baking soda in it, I think. But I'd say that's a completely different kind of recipe. I'm talking about the egg white bread recipes specifically. So I hope that that helps. Okay. Yes, you said yes. When you bite in it, it doesn't crumble. It chews like angel food cake. Yeah. Yeah. Any fats that you can add. And that is tricky because fats tend to deflate the batter. So I recommend following one of the recipes with the butter powder, the frozen shredded butter, the egg yolk, the whole egg, any of those things. Krista says, did you say Team Keto Collagen has MCT oil in it? So I was talking about Perfect Keto. Again, they have their sale going on right now, the 4th of July sale. Their collagen has MCT oil powder in it. So most of the collagens that you buy is just collagen powder, sometimes with added flavors and sweeteners and stuff. But the Perfect Keto collagen is what they call it. And I think they call it keto collagen because it has added MCT oil powder in it. So it's a combination of both. So it's a great way if you want to get both of those benefits. You can get that and you get, it's just one product and you get both benefits. But then there are lots of options where you can buy just collagen. Equip has a great collagen, unflavored and chocolate. And then you can buy the MCT oil powder from Perfect Keto if you want, them separately. It depends on just what works for you and the benefits you're looking for. Cindy is on day 2 of the egg fast. Love eggs and have done a 7-day egg fast in the past. Yeah, I think the egg fast is totally doable for like a 7-day time period. For me, I felt like I wouldn't get enough calories if I did that. And I think that's just me. Like I have a weird thing about eggs where I have a hard time eating more than like 2 or 3 at a time. And so I just can't get enough calories in. But like when Lindsay did it, she's can sit down and eat 6 eggs at a time, and her calories and protein would, stay a lot higher. So if you're able to do a lot higher calorie on the egg fast, then I think there's probably no issue in doing it for 7 days. I do think there's a lot of unique nutrition and very bioavailable nutrition in especially red meat and other kinds of meats. So I wouldn't say like, let's all just go on an egg diet for the rest of our lives. Like, I mean, there are worse diets you could go on for the rest of your lives, I think. But I think, having the variety and using the egg fast as a tool, I think that's totally legitimate. And as long as you're able to get in, a good amount of calories for your body, I don't see anything wrong with doing it for 7 days at a time. I think it's great. Let's see. Connie says, I like a 3-day challenge. It makes it so much more appealing. I can put up with something for that long. I totally agree. The sardine challenge for 3 days was a lot because it was sardines. But yeah, I do. And I think it seems like there's something magical about that 3-day amount of time. I saw my ketones, really bump up on that 3rd day, especially on the egg fast. That was really fascinating. On day 3 of my egg fast, my ketones bumped up and they stayed up for like 24 hours after that. That was really interesting. And yeah, there's something about 3 days. And I've heard like Dr. Fung and other people that talk about fasting, Mindy Pels, talk about certain people who just can't get into fat burning mode, like on a intermittent fasting schedule or even a 24-hour fast. I seem to be one of those people. But they said like 36, 48 hours. Some people who have not had success with shorter fasts, like see magic happen at the 36 and the 48-hour mark with fasting. And I wonder if like 72 hours on something like the sardine fast or the egg fast would have a similar effect on like getting people who are more resistant to getting into that deep fat burn mode. That 3 days somehow is magical for those people, and that's how long it takes to really see your body move into that deeper state of ketosis. That's what it seems like for me. I did, a 23-hour fast, and a lot of people will say, oh, after 12 hours, after 15 hours, that's when your body moves into, ketosis. For me, I did not even get above 0.5 at, hour 23. And I don't know how long it would take, for me to bump into ketosis, but enduring that 23 hours of feeling like I'm starving, not having ketones, not having protein to make me feel satiated, just feeling weak and like in starvation, like that's not worth it to me. But something like an egg fast where you are getting nourishment, and you're still, it takes longer. Obviously, it takes that full 3 days usually to get into the deeper states of ketosis, but you do eventually get there without having to go through that low protein, low ketone state where you just feel horrible. So I think it's a really good tool that I want to use more. I just need to figure out like a rhythm to have it work in my regular life. Oh, Reese is talking about the healthy noodles. I showed those in my Costco haul this morning. Those are really good. And I totally agree. You have to be careful not to cook them. They already have an overcooked texture right out of the bag. They're like rice noodles, but a little bit overcooked, which I don't mind. Like I would prefer it to be a little bit more al dente, but I don't, they're such a good noodle substitute that they're still good in my opinion. But yeah, don't cook them. Like wait, like rinse them in a colander in cold water, and then right before you serve, throw them into whatever sauce and just barely get them warm so that you can enjoy them warm. But don't cook them. Thank you, Blaze, for reminding everyone to hit the like button. Thank you so much. We'll have this be the last question from Barking Squirrel. Love that name. How long does it take to hard boil eggs in an 8-quart Instant Pot Pro? I have had several stinky disasters trying. 6 minutes, sulfurous catastrophe. Oh, that doesn't sound good. 3 minutes, not much better. And you're close to sea level. Okay. So I wish there was like a good chart where it's like, if you're at this elevation, this amount of time and so forth. But it doesn't seem to be that simple. I think it varies based on the type of Instant Pot, location, environment. And some people will get hard-boiled eggs at 1 minute in the Instant Pot. If I did 1 minute, I would have like, almost raw soft-boiled eggs. For me, I can do 3 minutes for soft-boiled and 6 minutes for hard-boiled, and they come out perfect every time. But this is one of those things where you have to figure out what works for you in your area, in your specific Instant Pot. And it's not something that anyone can prescribe. So it's a trial and error thing. So if 3 minutes was still bad, try 1 minute, try 2 minutes. You really have to figure it out for yourself. And yeah, there's no like perfect recipe that works for everybody, unfortunately. Connie says, I'm not successful with fasting either, so I agree that an egg fast or similar would be better for a short reset. Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that, like people say, fasting is a muscle and you can work it out and get to a place where it's easier, but it takes a lot of work. And that's not something that when there are other tools that I can use, I'm just going to work with those and, maybe work on the fasting tool at some point. But, you just kind of have to figure out what tool works for you in the season of life you're in and what results you're going for and all of that. So anyways, I am going to hop off. Thanks everyone for joining. Like we said earlier, next week we will be on Lindsay's channel. So definitely go subscribe to her and ring the bell. We always try to do as much as possible consistency with our 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday mornings. I think we've only missed one since we started, and we started like in December. So we're on a pretty good run. It was right after KetoCon when I was still in Austin, and we decided to take the one day off that we missed. But besides that, we are here on Tuesdays. So mark your calendars and join us. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next video.